Hi, I'm John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to another edition of the MBA adventure, Making It Happen with Fortuna Admissions. I have with me Judith Hodara.
Hi, John.
Hello. Judith is co-founder of Fortuna and a former admissions official at the Wharton School. And we're going to talk about deferred admissions programs. The most famous of them all was 2+2 at Harvard Business School. But in the past few years, many schools have enrolled these deferred admission programs. They're very popular. What do we need to know about them?
So it's pretty interesting to me that there's been such a growth in the 2+2 / deferred entry. They have a lot of different names over the past few years. And it's interesting because it really started out with schools sort of sub-matriculating their own students. So if you were a junior, you could, in many cases, combine your senior year with an additional year of the MBA program. But at that time, it was mostly open to students from that particular undergraduate. Past few years, an explosion of schools recognizing, and they're very smart this way, that if you get that talent when they're 21 years old and they don't come to you until they're 24 or 25, you still get that wonderful student body locked in, connected to your school. They go out and they have some educational or professional experience before going on for their MBA.
And I remember when Harvard first did it, the intent was to dangle business education in front of people who might otherwise go to med school or law school, and also to get more STEM graduates into the MBA pipeline. Is that a purpose as well for many of the schools or not?
So when you think about it, a lot of folks that are leaving undergrad, assuming they're 20, 21 years old, they're automatically thinking about graduate school. And you're right, medical school happens almost immediately after undergrad, as does law school. You know, there may be a year in between, but usually not the 3 to 4 years that most MBA applicants will take. So it is a great way to get that sort of younger thinking about, oh, business school could be the next step for me. But the barriers to entry are going to be a little bit different because I'm actually going to go through that application now while I'm still in undergrad, while my friends are applying to law school and med school, and then perhaps, I'll go a few years from now.
Now, the big advantage is taking a standardized test because all the research shows that the younger you are and the closer you are to a college experience, the better you do on the test. But the difficult thing is you don't have work experience of any meaningful kind of variety. So how do you best position yourself then? That's
a really tough one to answer because in the very beginning when I was at Wharton and we started to see these sub-matriculants, they were incredibly talented quantitatively. And you're right, they could run the numbers, highest GPAs we'd seen, really strong GMAT scores, but they weren't bringing a lot to the party necessarily unless they had been very involved in on-campus organizations or in summer internships. And still now, even with the spread of these programs throughout the M7, it is sometimes challenging for students to answer what really matters to you, or who are you? What are you going to bring to this program when they haven't really had that wealth of experience? And so the students that are more successful in these programs are, of course, bringing that quantitative background, but they're also very confident in what it is they've done, and they have a long-term vision for what happens after business school as well.
Now, how does the admissions decision change because you don't have real work experience? Because, part of the work experience equation is admissions officials want to see that you've been actually selected by a highly selective employer. Now, that's a very important ingredient. What replaces that in these decisions?
In many cases, these students already have their next job lined up. So they know when they're graduating that they're going to be working for McKinsey, for example, or Goldman, or they're going to be working for the Unified School District of Los Angeles. And so they, in their heads, they can say, this is what I'm doing, or on paper, these are my next 3 years, and then I want to go to business school, and that's what I'm going to be able to bring to the community. So it's almost as if you're forecasting, as an admissions officer, how will this experience shape this individual, and then what will they bring to us when they're enrolled?
And if you're a student, how early do you need to think about this? Is it freshman, sophomore year? Pretty much, right?
Yeah, to sort of start to think about the organizations that you want to be involved with on campus. What are you thinking about in terms of getting ready for the GMAT? Do you want to have some of those classes under your belt? Accounting, statistics, finance, all really good courses to see in the
right.
undergraduate transcript.
Because that's shaping your transcript too is a very important part of it.
So even if you're an art history major, you want to make sure that you have some of those quant classes as well. Typically, those applications are going to be due in late March, April of the year, of the calendar year. So most students will begin this process sort of the fall before. The questions are out and they begin to sort of think about, well, how do I want to position myself for eventual application to these schools?
So the good news is start thinking early, shape your transcript. Unfortunately for the poets, you got to take quant courses. You got to show you're doing more than basket weaving and opera singing or appreciation for opera. Judith, thank you.
Thank you.
This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. You've been watching the MBA adventure, Making It Happen with Fortuna Admissions. Join us for other episodes.